Hello viewers, this is Dima Nefartity. Welcome you all from the very special episode of Time Talk. We are now at the studio of Time Television from New York. And in this episode of Time Talk, we have very special guest today. We have very special guest today, and she is Noamiki Konst, veteran TV journalist, human rights activist, and candidate for State Senate Election District 59. Hello Noamiki, welcome you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dima. From one journalist to another, it's very nice to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a pleasure that you made time for us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Of course. And you know that what I said to you last week, that this TV is for the Bangladeshi community, and this is a very popular TV channel for the Bangladeshi people. So it's our pleasure from Time Television, New York, that we have you today. And my first question, why are you running election? Say something about this.
So this is a new district that was created about 2.5 months ago. We had a very crazy redistricting process, unusual for any year, let alone a redistricting year. But the final district was created. It's District 59, and it goes from Astoria, Long Island City, to Greenpoint, North Williamsburg, and then parts of East Manhattan from Gramercy to Stuyvesant Town, Waterside Plaza, Kips Bay, Murray Hill area. So it's very unusual. But when the lines were created, I was asked by community members in Astoria, where I live, to run, and part of the reason is they asked for somebody who represented the community, who was involved in the community, who understood the issues that all of our neighbors are
Wonderful.
facing.
And we know that you are a very veteran journalist, and you did lots of TV shows regarding climate changes, human rights, activism, many issues. Yeah, I know that long time you are working with dedication and steadfastly. And so in this election, what are your issues?
Well, I think living in Astoria, everybody realizes that affordability it's changed so much. It used to be that you had a path. If you were an immigrant, like my family was immigrants when they came to New York, and I know in the Bangladeshi community in particular, so many people came here for a better life, right? To be able to make it and to flourish. But there's been so much growth in our neighborhood, so much development. Real estate has put a lot of money into building big apartment complexes, and as a result, housing is less affordable. The price of goods with inflation is less affordable, and at the state senate level, we actually have the power immediately right now to make a difference, so that we have stronger rent control, so that we have good cause eviction, so that we control inflation and price gouging, because they're trying to make a lot of money.
Wonderful. So I want to know that you were a TV journalist.
Yes.
So which motivated you to turn into a politician and a dedicated politician?
Well, even though I was a TV journalist, I always was working on issues very close to the ground.
As a human rights activist.
Yeah, I worked with Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, on 2 elections. We campaigned all over the country, talked to so many different communities, talked about environmental issues, women's issues, gun rights, immigrant issues, housing issues, all, racial justice. And, I think when you're in this space for a long time, I felt as if I could only do so much on camera.
Right.
And the fact that there are crises in my community, and this Senate district was created, and I looked at who was running, and I was asked to run, and I thought, I don't know if there's a deeper sense and an independence to take on the special interest. As a journalist,
Sure.
you have to be independent, and you have to be unafraid to take on oil companies and real estate companies and corporate interests to be the best journalist. I think the same thing for this crisis we're in of affordability.
Yes.
In New York, you have to be willing to take on the special interests. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to be in this crisis. And I know that is what makes me unique in this race.
So what's your political mission actually as a politician?
My political mission is really to be the best representative of my neighbors.
Wonderful. And just say something about your political career. When did you start it?
Oh boy, I started volunteering on campaigns when I was a child. My mother was very involved in politics. My father was. My grandfather was. They were very civically engaged, just like your community. I think that's what, there's a lot of common bonds between the Greek community and the Bangladeshi community. A lot of civic groups, knocking on doors, stuffing envelopes, organizing about issues that faced our community in particular. So, it was always around when I was a child, and then I got involved in environmental organizing, immigrants' rights in particular, down at the border when I was in college. And then, the Iraq War. I was in college when the Iraq War began my freshman year, and then that sped up my political experience. And then I became a national co-chair for President Barack Obama for his re-election, and eventually I was on the Bernie Sanders national campaign, and he appointed me to a commission to reform the Democratic Party as a whole, because the Democratic Party, we've at the national level we've lost 1,200 seats. We have states across this country that Democrats used to win in, and now Republicans control, and as a result we're losing rights, left and right. So New York is one of the few places where we can enshrine our rights. We can make sure that we're pushing policies forward because the rest of the country is moving
forward.
And as
New York is like a melting pot, this is the multicultural, ideal multicultural basis, and New York has the versatility of the communities and the people. So what do you think that what changes you can bring after running the election?
Well, we have to make sure that melting pot is still a melting pot. When my grandparents fled, they were political refugees. When they fled, they came here because they knew that they had family members and friends that they could connect with, and community members. They could join the Greek community. And I know so many other communities, the Bangladeshi community in particular, in Astoria, or as I learned in Buffalo or Niagara Falls, or all over the state. But that only works if we're making sure that New York is affordable for all, if we make sure that people have opportunities. If you're working 2-3 jobs and spending all of your money on rent, and you don't have enough money to enjoy yourself and have a life and have a community events and parties, and if your kids can't play games, and if you don't have time to spend with your family, what's the point? New York is really supposed to be this brilliant, vibrant place for everybody to come and have a path. And I fear we're losing that, and I'm hoping that in the state Senate, we can make sure to keep New York affordable, make it more affordable, and take on the special interests that are trying to make money off of, just off of a crisis, because, we've been in a crisis already of affordability, and then the pandemic hit.
Yes, that was my question actually. Say something about your role during the pandemic time. I know that you had a very great role in the COVID time. Say something for our audience. Yeah,
I'm very proud that our campaign has released a pandemic relief plan. It was co-written by many different epidemiologists who helped us deal with the the public health part of the plan. But the other side of the plan is also to make sure that for the next pandemic, and even this pandemic, we're dealing with the affordability issues that came out of it. We already had a crisis of housing. We already had a crisis of wages in this city. We already had a crisis of affordability in this city, and also infrastructure. The pandemic brought it all into light and made it much worse. I read today that most New Yorkers who are facing eviction right now, they're facing eviction because their rents have gone up 33% in 1 year. And in some cases, people signed up for new apartments during the pandemic. And in some cases, their landlords are not offering them leases again. And where do they go? Yeah. So our pandemic relief plan deals with those issues.
And many New Yorkers are leaving New York, they are going to Buffalo or other part. So I hope that you will do something better for the New Yorkers. So my next question is that how do you think that how you can connect our Bangladeshi community with your progressive endeavor?
Well, I have been having a blast on this campaign trail because I have gotten to know so many of our community members and neighbors in the Bangladeshi community. We have one of our team members who's behind camera, Doreen. She is Bangladeshi, and
Yes.
We've gone to festivals and talked to our neighbors about the concerns you're facing. And I think, again, it goes back to affordability. So I want to make sure that I'm the best advocate for the Bangladeshi community in the Senate, so that you come to me before there's a crisis. So we can make sure, in Astoria, I learned that there were apartment complexes, several apartment buildings, that have not had gas for anywhere from 3 months to a year. That is what a politician is for. They're there to represent you and make sure that you have gas. Now, if that happens in the wintertime, how do you keep yourself warm? How do you feed your family? That's an injustice. That's a failure of the government. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that when I'm in the Senate, you can call me up. You can knock on my door. I'll come and visit you. We have regular coffees and meetings, and I'm your best advocate.
And Noamiki, do you think that hate crime increased recently a lot?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, it's and I think some of this, we have a plan to take on tech radicalization. And I know that sounds very, big-minded, but there's so much of the hate is being stewed online. And tech companies know that their algorithms, they benefit, they incentivize, whether it's on Twitter, people attacking women and people of color, or on YouTube, shows that attack women and people of color and immigrants. They get higher up in the algorithm, they get more clicks. And as a result, it's changing our conversations, it's changing the way young people think, it's radicalizing people, and it's also making it so that people are they're disassociating from reality. So, a lot of this radicalization that's happening online, especially when you have people like Donald Trump pushing it, they go out into the real world and they feel empowered to take, to enact hate crimes, and it's. We have to take that on, and I think we can do it at the state Senate level. We know that Washington's not doing it, but I know personally, having worked in the online space, how serious it is. And once I'm there in the state Senate, I'm telling you on day one, we're going to deal with this. Yeah.
And what are you thinking for our next generation, like the kids and children? Do you have any plan for them?
Well,
for the immigrant peoples, yeah.
Yeah. So public schools, it's very unfortunate that our city cut the budget for public schools. At the state level,
yeah, that
also,
was my point. Yeah.
It's not. If we are not funding our public schools, who are we? That's the base of everything in our country, and it's the base of democracy. I mean, everybody knows. And so many people came here because they wanted that pathway. My grandparents always said, whatever you do in life, just make sure you get an education. Just make sure you go to school, because their lives were disrupted by war. They never got past second grade in my grandmother's instance. And my grandfather, he had to flee his school and come to the United States and learn on his own, as I know so many other people, like you too. I mean, you're here.
Yes.
You've been here for less than a decade, and we're talking about it off camera. People want to build better lives for their children.
Of course, yeah.
We have the money in this city. It's just not being prioritized and put into the right places. If we are spending more money on big developers and their tax breaks than we are on our children and educating them, that's a failure of government. So at the state Senate level, there's been a long fight over public school funding. I think with what happened at the city council level, I would make sure to prioritize. My mother was a public school teacher. My grandmother was. It's not, this is unjust.
That should be. Well, last week I saw you, actually we met in a big Bangladeshi fair, and I saw you there. You were enjoying the fair, you were eating the street food, I mean, we call it fuchka. Also, you took selfie with me. So I found that you have a deep heart for the Bangladeshi community. And actually, I got that vibe. That's why I planned that I have to interview you for my viewers. So now, Noamiki, tell us that why Bangladeshi community will vote for you.
Well, everybody has a decision to make, right? I can tell you a couple of things. I have been living in Northwest Queens. I have felt the pain of my neighbors. I've seen the pain my neighbors have faced. I've personally felt it. this is a community that is rapidly changing. And I moved to Northwest Queens because I loved the diversity. I loved that, you could walk down 30th Avenue and see every single culture, every single type of restaurant in person. You get on the subway, whether it's the 7 train or the N or the W, you see that melting pot before you, but we're losing that. And I think that the only way, and what differentiates me from some of my opponents is, I've been rooted in this community, in this district in particular. I'm not controlled by political machines. I'm not controlled by special interest groups. We are truly a community-based campaign. We are only taking money from individuals. There's no corporate money. We're not being supported by organizations that take real estate money or corporate money or oil and gas money.
I got you. So how do we evaluate our Bangladeshi community? Do you think that they are promising and rising, their growth and their communicative? As an immigrant community, how do you evaluate our Bangladeshi community?
I think it's beautiful. I mean, I have many friends from the Bangladeshi community. I think this news station in particular is a beautiful service for a community.
Yeah, of course, it's a dedicated
keeps people
service.
together, keeps information going, especially in this era of misinformation. To see hyper-local news with the community aspect is so important. So I love it. It makes me feel, this is what New York is about, and we just want to make sure that everybody can stay together and live, in the homes that they've been living in some cases, generations, and that other New Yorkers can learn from the Bangladeshi community.
Oh yes, and that with Time Television we are running our successful 8 years, and also we have a very leading newspaper in the community, and that's running for the last 22 years.
Incredible.
So, and before the show you were telling that tonight you want to talk about all local, no international, all local. That's a very important point.
Although I will say, I mean, we said international. I mean,
and that's the role of ethnic media, actually.
Yes. It's very important. I did ethnic news yesterday. I did a long radio show.
Yes.
Got very local about, the streets and the parking and the traffic, and, that's what people care about.
So now tell me something about like gentrification in this area. And a few weeks ago, I went a meeting. It's called Innovation Konst.
Yes.
So what you are thinking and what's your views? And there are two groups of people. One is like against and one's are supportive. So what you think about the gentrification of this area, Astoria, Northern Boulevard, and
I think it's tragic. I think that we live in a speculative real estate bubble. Innovation Queens is the latest project that, there have been many of these projects all over the city for the last several decades where they get major tax breaks, these developers. They build these truly unaffordable apartments. They offer a few what they call affordable apartments, but they're set by the market rate. The market rate is set by the real estate developers. I don't know anybody who can afford a studio apartment for, $3,500, $4,000. That
doesn't make any sense, actually.
It makes no sense. And frankly, even if it's just those apartments, it's affecting the affordability of everybody else's rents. It's affecting the small business owner who can no longer afford to keep their small business, together because their rent goes up. And they have to raise the price of the bread or the milk. It's not good for the community. And this is at the same time while wages are not moving. They're down. We don't have the New York Health Act passed, so people are spending money, especially from the pandemic, on healthcare costs. Folks, they don't have rent-stabilized apartments the way that we used to. I mean, the rent stabilization has gone up. Not to mention if you don't have a rent-stabilized apartment. So Innovation Queens is a very well-funded PR campaign for this real estate project that is thinking very long-term. They're going to keep fighting for a decade plus because this is a long-term investment for them to make money well past gentrification, well past people leave the community because they can no longer afford. I'm against it. I'm glad the community board voted against it. I hope that Donovan Richards, the Queensborough president, is really listening to the community because the Queens that he grew up in and many others grew up in, it's not going to be able. That's not possible anymore.
And I hope that this project will be closer to the grassroots level people.
That's right.
That's the main thing, Exactly.
And it was beautiful to see so many members of the community showing up and voicing their opinions. Yes.
Wonderful. And last but not the least, what your plan and what are you thinking about the grassroots level people?
well, everything in our campaign is grassroots.
I want to add because we see that New York is a city of skyscrapers,
Yes.
city of millionaires. Parallelly, we see that lots of homeless people are sleeping on the street, and the subways are dirty, and many issues. So, share
People
something.
are concerned about this. I mean, I talk to voters, and it comes up a lot. I mean, folks that are not necessarily reading the New York Post, maybe they didn't vote for Eric Adams, but they're concerned that there's, a lot has happened in the last few years, and I think many of the root causes, not all of them, but many of the root causes are because of the lack of housing available and the lack of mental health support. And when you have a pandemic and no housing and no jobs available, suddenly all of this stress comes together, and it really throws the community off. So I think we have to deal with housing, we have to deal with mental health, we have to deal with the New York Health Act in particular. We have to make sure that we take on inflation and the price gouging. We have to support our small businesses. All of these things make our communities thrive. The community is about taking care of each other. And if you don't feel like your child can walk home, during the day, we're failing in government. We're failing.
Wonderful. And just another quick question, that you are a legendary woman. So what are you thinking for women empowerment? And parallelly, one point came in my mind that about the single mothers. We see that there are lots of single mothers struggling in this community, like especially Queens. We see that. So do you have anything, any thought for them?
So I actually started an organization called Matriarch a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And it supports working class women, specifically running for office. But our perspective is, if you have more working class women running for office and in government is going to start prioritizing working class women.
Wonderful.
And I think, one thing I'm putting on the table is we have a women's health justice plan. It's specifically around health justice, but there have been reports, more reports in the last few years about how women don't find out that they have a health, whether it's something ovarian related or with their health, even after asking their doctors, their OBGYNs many times, and sometimes it's too late. So we need to put more money into research. We need to make sure doctors are sharing information with or if they're, if you bring it up to your doctor, the doctor actually listens and looks into it, because, too many women of color in particular, are on the front lines of the injustice that we have in our healthcare communities. So I will bring that up definitely on day one.
Okay, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
so much.
valuable
Thank you to
presence
everybody.
in
Thank
our
you.
audience. Thank you so much. It's
been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Cholo, right? Cholo.
Cholo. Yeah, cholo.
My one word.
Dear viewers, this was our special Time Talk episode with very special guest, Noamiki Konst. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dima.
Bye.